people's prejudices, people's reactions are based on experiences.
Thank you for asking. It was beautiful.
So it is entirely possible that just before, because he used to get along very well with Kofo.
Yes,
he used to get along very well, and then coincidentally, as when Nike refused to take over Kofo, I noticed that Nike had that he preferred to speak in Yoruba first. You understand? Then it was about that time.
Not with me, but we're going live in the
studio. With me either.
Mics are up.
Breakfast present.
Hey, I forgot the music. Sometimes.
And a good morning to you, Lagos. You're tuned in and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. And right now, it is time to jump into detailed newspaper analysis inside a Freshly Pressed. Joining Valentine and myself in the studio this morning, we have our Friday analysts. Well, at least two of our Friday analysts. But Cheta Nwaeze is back in the studio with us today. Good morning, Cheta. How are you?
Good morning.
There you go. Great to have you here. Miss Ireti Bakare-Yusuf is with us. How are you doing, Miss Ireti?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you all for the love. I have to say thank you to Smooth FM listeners for the love and the kindness. I was overwhelmed on Twitter yesterday.
All right, there you go. It was her birthday yesterday, Cheta. Don't be rude. And Tunde Okufi, aka
Cheta
Big
doesn't
Coops.
have birthdays, that's why.
It's been a while. Tunde, how are you doing? Excuse me, people. And hello, welcome to be back. Let's control ourselves. Hi, Tunde. How are you?
Very well, Folu.
Great to have you here. Thank you. Want some calm.
Yeah.
You should be sitting between those two. That's what should be happening.
Actually.
We're up on YouTube streaming live now. So go to youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. That's how you find us up there. And as we get into the stories for this morning, make sure you tweet at us. Just use that hashtag freshlypressed981. And once you use the hashtag, we'll be able to read out your messages on the airwaves. So let's jump into our first story for the day. Court remands Melaye in police custody until the 11th of June. Now, Cheta, we are talking about Senator Dino Melaye and just sort of following his process through the system, which has been rather convoluted so far. Now, when he was first arraigned, he was actually charged with attempted suicide and escape from lawful custody. That was interesting, but he was granted bail for that. But in the larger charges with the other accused persons standing trial on 7 counts bordering on criminal conspiracy and unlawful possession of firearms, it seems as though the court has denied oral permission that was sought by his counsel for him to be granted bail. Over to you. What's your take on the development so far?
On this Dino thing, it's pretty difficult for me to feel any empathy for the man. In that respect, he should just take it like he's going for an advanced needs training program for the next 39 days. Legally speaking, there isn't much wrong with what the judge in Lokoja has done. We should bail is discretionary and
completely.
Yeah, and Melaye's passports and his access to funds means that he can easily claim medical issues and hop away from the country, even if just temporarily. The main challenge from where I stand is with the trust of the prosecution. Dino Melaye is hardly a sense, but it would seem that the government, via the police and the prosecution services, are out to not only imprison him but humiliate him while they are at it. And considering that many of our politicians are complicit in the kind of behavior and activities that he's accused of and about to stand trial for, it sends all kinds of wrong messages.
Yeah, but doesn't that make it good though? Sets precedent.
That's the problem. It sends wrong messages that it is critics of the government.
It appears that they are nitpicking who it is.
That's the problem with it. If you look at it from the that's bird's eye view, there's really no problem. But by the time you now start coming down, that's where the problem is. Otherwise, he should enjoy himself.
Justice must be seen to be done evenly across the board. But thank you very much for that, Cheta. We appreciate it. Tunde, coming to you next. The reps are talking and they're saying that they are to pass their budget, their 2018 budget next Tuesday. So the House of Representatives has slated next Tuesday for the laying of the 2018 budget. The House may also pass the appropriation bill on the same day. And the House may, there's a lot of mays in this story here, Tunde, after the passage of the bill, shut down plenary to then protest the killings of Nigerians, especially in Benue State. great, but I'm not sure that the House should be protesting. One would imagine they'd be a little bit more proactive than that. But your take on this, and do you any faith really in Abdul Razak Namdas, who's the chairman, saying that it seems like next Tuesday we've got this?
Okay, so first off, this is for information purposes and it's good, but look, it's been in there for 6 months already since the president read it. So are we supposed to give him a round of applause at this stage? Part of the reason why they said, oh, they can't go on their supposed protest for the killings across the country is because the passage of the budget is of grave and great importance to the nation. I wonder why it's taken 6 months to get through this. I don't think they've approached, and year after year, I don't think they have approached their task or their duty in this as diligently as they could, to be honest. Okay, but not to the proposed, but it's good. Let's hope. He said so many conflicting things. He said, "Oh, it's sacrosanct." Then he said, "Hopefully," in another line. So let's see. We'll wait and see. Yeah?
That's an oxymoron.
We will wait and see. We're always waiting to see. But we're also waiting to see your messages, Lagos and the rest of the world. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 on Twitter. You can send us messages to our WhatsApp number as well. That number is 0809 444 0981. Up next, Mr. Ireti, there are more criticisms of President Buhari, and I think he must just accept that this is probably the attitude the country will have until the next elections. But the Vanguard newspaper gives us this headline and story. Buhari makes a stopover in London to refuel and repair the jet, says the president. Will have called them out, saying, why have you stopped over? It's a waste of funds. But we have the presidency via the Madam Garba coming out to say it's a small plane because the big plane is undergoing severe repairs or serious repairs. There's nothing wrong with stopping over in London. Yes, it is capable of a long-haul flight, but why push it to the limit, Mr. Ireti?
Well, actually, the only thing I would disagree with you in your introduction is that Nigerians, especially my brothers downstairs, are not upset with Buhari about wasting money. They're more upset about the fact that you're lying to us again. That's what most of Nigeria is saying, that you stopped over in London to see your doctor. And so why is Garba and the rest of his team lying to us? And as I said, look, parrots, which is effectively what they are, communication people, spokesperson for governments, lie all over the world. Alistair Campbell did it in England, Sarah Huckabee James or whatever, and the rest of her name is doing it in America every day. I don't know why we always think these things are unique to Nigeria. It's their job. They are communication. They are PR. Thank you, to put a spin on it. So yes, they've told us that Buhari's on the smaller plane, the smaller jet. It can only do 12 hours, 40 minutes. Yes, 12 hours from Abuja to Washington. And they're saying, well, why push it to the limit? Okay, it's a plausible argument. Let's be fair. It's a plausible representation or presentation. But on the other hand, did he stop to see his doctor? If he stopped to see his doctor, the argument is we should know about it. Right. One thing we do know is that our president is not 100% healthy. Right. If the result of the visit to the doctor became threatening or an issue or something that we should know about, I think then we need to know about it.
Alternatively, he could be 100% healthy for a man his age.
He could be.
That's another way to look at it.
That's another way to look at it, and that's a positive. Okay, Cheta wants to say something.
In his age bracket. And his age bracket. But that's the thing, his age bracket does require
regular checkups.
It's clear that maintenance was done on something.
No, on two things.
We're speculating so much on this.
Yes.
Let's remember in 2015, the opposition, that's PDP then, they were channeling this whole health issue as their own campaign strategy against Buhari.
So we're seeing it come back.
And they are using it now. Can't we look at that aspect to say, probably it's possible that PDP is actually just putting out this fake news?
I'm with you, but what I'm even saying is that the chances are he probably did stop off to see a doctor. Okay.
Or did stop off and see a doctor.
Thank you, that's the word. Okay. Stopped and decided, let me check in with doc just in case. Make sure, whilst we're here, make sure everything is okay, and that's fine. Also, Cheta wants to say something.
Yes.
No, him seeing a doctor. I mean, at his age, he's 1 million years old. He will have to see a doctor.
You will get to that age, Cheta.
No, I will
get
to that
I'm
age.
Not
as
1.5 million.
I'm not as sprightly as I was 10, 15 years ago. So I understand that. What the problem is here is before he left, when he was leaving DC, they told us he was coming to Abuja. Then he disappeared for 2 days. That's the issue, is the communication.
Right,
They
it
could
was
have
the
told
break
us
in communication in
that
advance.
he was,
Thank you. But what, any comments on the rest of the story instead of
Yeah,
just
the
focusing
rest
on
of-
this,
yes.
where the president does come out to talk
Well,
about...
the rest of the story is President Trump.
Wait, let me just, for listeners' sake, the rest of the story is talking about Buhari saying that the press continuously misrepresents a lot of information, and specifically the latest meeting with President Trump.
And that's the thing, is that there's cynicism. There's a lot of cynicism going on, and like you said, PDP will be doing their thing. Look, it's electioneering. I think it's up to us to read between the lines. Like I said, spokesperson for governments, even for organizations, for corporates all over the world. Like Tunde helped me to find, that's the word, spin. It's their job to put a positive spin on everything that they say, and that's the long and short of it.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Ireti.
We have a message in from Chidozie Woma. He says, "Good morning, guys. I do not like Dino, but I'm seeing a pattern where that the late Audu's son is since in prison with a case of robbery hanging on his head. Can you imagine a late governor's son being a robber just because he's tired to lay claims to power now that the same is happening to Dino?"
Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Thank you.
Just taking this. Okay, so this other one here from Benga says, "Are some people still being fooled by Dino's lies in theatrics? Going by the antecedents, I think I have a fair idea of what he's up to. I commend the police for their decisiveness in the case so far. My only disappointment yesterday was that the judge did not rule that he should be remanded in Kuje prison or the Potiskum prison somewhere in Yobe State, which would have been the case if Dino were a common man. Nobody should be above the law."
So it's not above the law again. That is discretionary. So the judge has exercised his discretion appropriately. From the Guardian newspaper, Nigeria and China seal a $2.5 billion currency swap deal. We've taken this one from the Guardian newspaper, and Cheta, I'd like your take on it. To let you know, the agreement is an exchange of currencies. It's very straightforward, and it is to make it easier for Chinese manufacturers seeking to buy raw materials from Nigeria to obtain enough naira from the banks in China to pay for their imports from Nigeria. And the deal is supposed to protect Nigerian business people as well from the harsh effects of third currency fluctuations. Cheta, what is your take on this?
I like that spin to make it easier for for Chinese manufacturers. This is the facts. First things first, it's actually great news all around. As a matter of fact, we didn't, from my point of view, we didn't even get enough. Because we are getting to the equivalent of $2.5 billion in Rembini swaps, and trade with China as of 2017, our imports from China have a value of about 7.4 billion. So we still need to find another 5 billion somewhere. But this is what has happened. Over the last 3 decades, China has become the world's factory, and that Nigerian businessmen no longer go to the West to buy finished goods, they go to China. But because the Naira is not a convertible currency, they have to buy US dollars and then go and convert it to Renminbi in order to... So now that we can actually swap directly between the two central banks, the Central Bank of Nigeria and the People's Bank of China, talking directly, the net effect is that the pressure on our dollar reserves will go down. That is it. That can only be a good thing. What we need to do now is really to find a way to ramp up, because this deal is just for 3 years. We need to find a way to ramp up our actual exports of valuable stuff to the Chinese, so that they will consider it worth it, and then it will have enough cycles to feed our own demand.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Cheta. A couple of messages coming through still. Prince says, "Is there anybody that is 100% healthy? However, the media handlers are not doing a good job." I do think, still talk about the president, while Gwinga Joel comes in to say on WhatsApp, "London is off the US to Abuja route. My dad flew at least 2 Nigerian presidents, and the best place to have refueled and fixed the craft could have been Ireland." Which part of Ireland? Northern Ireland? I'm not really sure you want to stop. No. Let me just move on. Yes, but you have the paper. Let me show you, President.
They have the facilities.
We've got more to get into.
For that reason.
Ima Lagos says, opposition fake news, really? What Big E from K2 says, "I see Buhari running for presidency and handing over to someone of his age and needs to rest. Just tell him to rest." All right. And on Twitter, we've got this one in from Anti-Yellow says, what are we talking about? If they must lie, they should at least lie with some sense. The same plane took him to Washington without stopping. Yes, maybe they didn't realize he pushed it to the max. Listen, it's Nigeria.
They feel finished.
It's Nigeria. Maybe they don't want to take that chance on the way back.
Rats eats the food.
Anything is possible. The rats could have flown with them. Please, let's move on.
The next story is from ThisDay. Darkness hits Lagos as fire got TCN's Alagbon transmission substation. So many parts of Lagos, according to this report, will be affected by darkness. So the shutdown of the 66 megavolts amp power transformer at the Alagbon transmission substation in Ikoyi. It said it exploded and caught fire in the early hours of yesterday morning, and most people witnessed it. People in Ikoyi could have seen this, as it said it was visible as well. It affected parts of Abalende, Idumabo, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, and other parts of Lagos. Miss Ireti, what's your take on this?
Right, so I've been in darkness. I don't know about the rest of you. I've been wondering what was going on, and I think
yeah, I've been in darkness for it. It's been really upsetting.
Yeah.
It's very
yeah,
hot.
really, like really kind
Virtually
of.
half of us in this
Yeah, I've been in darkness. Like you're just thinking, no, Cheta hasn't been in darkness.
No, he
clearly,
hasn't,
you
clearly.
can see
He's
the
got
light
solar,
in his
he's got
eyes.
inverter. He's hooked up to the earth.
Well, my
powering his life.
did you discover like? I stopped buying fuel. I noticed there was a time where my fuel was lasting like forever. I'm thinking, okay, am I still in the same country?
Yeah,
You know,
we're in the same boat.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, no, actually, yes, you
And
are
then
in
it
that
said
country.
yes.
Yeah, reality check. So yes, so obviously something's gone wrong. There's a fire, and apparently they could see the smoke in Ikoyi, which must be quite, something. I mean, Alagbon is in Ikoyi.
Yeah.
So I only discovered that the other day. I was used to think Alagbon prison was like somewhere, in the quarter of the abroad somewhere. Yeah. So Alagbon's in Ikoyi. So there was this fire, but the good news here is that Eco Disco, they seem to have it under control. They seem to be working hand in hand with the TCN, which is what's important.
It said it's a minor problem.
Yeah, that was silly. It's just a silly. Why would you say fire is a minor problem? I mean, what is minor
Which
about a
means it
fire?
doesn't-
Your
didn't affect the
transmission
major
station
equipment.
burns down, and you say it's a minor issue.
And
It is not
plunges
a minor
the
issue.
whole of Lagos Island up to parts of
yes,
Efe.
and you say it's a minor issue. It's like
see, now big man area, they go fix them. Don't worry.
no.
Imagine if this was Ikeja Disco.
Well, they're not. This is Eco Disco. Sorry, can't help you.
Different to what you believe, the big man area is one that doesn't get fixed.
Exactly.
Because all of them would just all just fire up diesel gens and
gens,
keep
man.
running, and it's where they can't afford it that they go and start knocking on FS door regularly. You
Okay,
can
like
be there for
Mushi.
months and stuff. Mushi gets sorted quicker than Lekki 1 or anywhere else.
See, I'm alone here. All of you are lucky people.
Oh,
So enjoy your darkness.
My dear, sorry, it's not our fault that you live in the abroad.
Let's carry
So
on.
that's gonna be
No,
resolved
but
in a few days.
let's get back to the story. And the reason I like I said, I like the fact that the two, companies who both have responsibility for this are working together. I recently had an experience with Eco Disco, and I can speak based on the experience I had. They did such a good job. They were so hands-on. They fixed things very, very quickly. I'm hoping they're going to do the same here. So,
Yeah.
situations will happen. It's not what happens, it's how you deal with them. It's your solution and the way you go into solutions mode. How very quickly you do it. That's what matters.
Thank you.
We need light.
We've got more messages, so we're going to read them out. Adesua sent in this message, which is an important reminder to all of us out there, actually. She says, we are so cynical. We have failed to highlight the positives of the deals made and the currency swaps. Adesua goes on to say the UK, China, maybe Germany. Hopefully it means that the pressure on the dollars will drop as a nation. I
Cheta
can't
is
agree
about
with
to
you.
implode.
That's what he said.
I
Don't talk all these things.
Well,
no.
it's
Also
just
including the president's
general,
story,
yeah.
the trips that he's been on.
Exactly.
It's a general thing, and it's not just about you. It's about the reactions we've been getting. Don't take it so personally.
Don't hold it to your chest.
Don't type the world to your chest.
He's not talking about you, Cheta.
Let's move on. More messages still.
I wish our followers would be in the studio.
Shibuna says, well, they can be. Just go over to youtube.com/Booth981 FM Lagos. Shibuna says, whatever you sow, that is what you will reap. President Buhari and Dino, get your acts right. The common man is crying for good, and our leaders are acting drama. Yikes. While Big T says, exploded transformers. Really? No one noticed because we have been in darkness all this while. Do you know where I can get good inverters? Ask Big T. Somebody will send you a message.
Ping me.
Somebody will send you a
Ping me.
message. There you
Ping
go,
me
Miss
on
Ireti.
Twitter.
Tag her. She's at Sisioge Lagos. Okweyemi says, on Dino, being critical of the government does not confer immunity on anyone. If you are critical of the government, try not to run foul afoul of the law. If you do, then security agencies are within their full rights to arrest and prosecute you. I guess arrest and prosecution is also discretionary. Well, Ayo says, Echo Disco applies to Lure as well. We are seeing Pepe. Ayo, sorry. Welcome. Join us. We'll hold hands in the darkness. Let's carry on with more stories.
We have this one in from Guardian. Senate probes alleged missing 44 billion naira military pension. As on the Guardian. Now, the Senate has begun investigation on the alleged missing 44.9 billion naira from the Military Pensions Board. The funds, according to the upper legislative chamber, were allocated to the board from the service-wide votes between 2013 and 2017. In examining the story, Tunde, I'll come to you with this one. They actually highlighted some areas. The Office of the Accountant General of the Federation actually said in 2015 they realized about 13.5 billion, 2016 16.6 billion, and in 2017 15.42 billion. Said that they couldn't account for the years before that because they didn't treat it in some way. Can you throw some light on this story?
Well, okay, to throw some light on the story, let me.
Even though the fire station has burned down.
Hold on, let me go to. Anyway, let me go to a point that someone said. A member of the committee said, Philip Uyaka, he accused the board of negligence and said that the report submitted is haphazard. The entire story itself is haphazard, which is until I got to his statements, I realized why the report was haphazard. The report, the headline and the report speaks one about missing military pension funds, but then goes into the TSA. Yeah. And so it's like the people who are responsible for being accountable about this thing have intentionally befuddled the whole matter.
Yes.
So I can't provide any more clarity than what has been put out here, other than that we know that police pension, military pension funds to the tune of 44 billion is missing, and pensions are one of the the biggest, most abused things since the inception of this country, to be honest. And you wonder, and look, it's things like this that some idealistic young military officer will say, I mean, enough of this now. I'll put my life on the line for this nation for several years, only to come out to get a pittance or find out that my pittance has been stolen. Why don't I try to take matters into my own hands now? Actually, that's even the military. There's a bunch of other civil servants who can't even think along those lines. It's very unfortunate to serve your nation and then at the end of it, run the risk of all of absolutely that happening to you.
I was going to say, it's not just unfortunate, it's actually quite dangerous, but something interesting, and we will be reviewing this. We're going to have some of our military experts come back in to talk about this, because when they were last here, they'd said that for them in the military, and you could check, because we'd asked people that they hadn't been owed any pensions, that they get paid their pensions quite regularly. So it's very interesting.
Yes,
So it's very interesting and worrying to hear this now.
Yeah. And then what section of the military is it officers
of the armed forces?
Is it the officers that get their pensions regularly? There are a bunch of other cadres. Is this where the 44 billion is from? It really is interesting, because it is, to be honest, it's a case of national security. Let's not even joke about it, to be honest. But then another interesting part from the story is that it points out, well, at least the committee points out or queries the finance ministry as to why we spent the tune of 540 million on consultants handling the TSA. Remember, I said that we mixed the TSA in with the story instead of the office of the Auditor General. Now, if these guys are only providing accounting services, then I'll have to agree with them. But if the person that I know, if they're referring to the service provider that's helping in the actual collections of providing the system and platform for the collections of the TSA, then I mean this is fair and in line. But it would be nice to have more detail on that aspect.
All right. Still talking pensions on this day. Pension assets hit 7.8 trillion naira. Federal government to clear outstanding obligations. We noticed that in the past years, precisely around 4 years ago, pension fund administrators were averse to investing in multiple streams, really.
Nigerians were averse to them investing our pensions in multiple streams.
Because we had issues with our finance system at the time. That's between 2008 and 2009 when the stock market crashed. Now, recently, they've actually hailed them for coming on board. Now, National Pensions Commission, precisely PENCOM, has put the net assets value of the contributory pension scheme at 7.779 trillion naira as at February 28th. And they're saying this is due to the fact that they've now broken it into 4 different trenches. Now they are more open to taking more risks, so they expand the possibilities of them making more profits on individual pensions.
Sorry.
Okay, you just let's go over to a few messages.
He was just thinking about his pension.
Okay, please go ahead.
No. It's not that. You guys have.
See, the CPS has been a very good program so far, successful. For me, the risk is the fact that a lot of our politicians hear these amounts and they start thinking of, oh, let us take the pensions and invest in infrastructure. If we allow that happen and they do what we suspect they will do, then it will take 20 years for us to get back to this point. So we have to be very careful.
Thanks, Cheta, for providing. That's the exact point I wanted to make. That's where I got what you said last threw me off. That what Nigerians were uncomfortable initially was with the push from politicians to put our monies into infrastructure. However, this is a little different. It's talking about restructuring the pension funds so that the administrators are more have a greater appetite to investing in a wider variety of options. I would still say that, I mean, investing in stocks is something that they would, pensions and what pensions traditionally should invest in are low risk, more secure types of investments,
stable,
right? But that's why they need to break it down into different buckets and have a variety and not just put everything in government securities. The other thing that's interesting here that the story highlights that is there are only a total of 7.89, just about 8 million of us contributing to the pension funds as it is, and there's a plan to introduce a micro scheme. Which
They've had that plan for 4 years now,
but they still haven't executed. So hopefully bringing a wider range of contributors to the pension fund. So that is that's good.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Let's see if I can take a couple of comments. Loving this one in from Azu, who says, my auntie has experience of working in the aviation sector, and she says the whole stopover story and refueling story doesn't end up. End of story. Azu, shout out to your auntie. Big T says, what is magic? Paying PHCN on estimated billing and your bill only goes up and never down. That is magical. While JJ from Mushin says, Cheta, we get our power issue settled in Mushin quickly because we have prepaid meters. PHCN needs their money now.
No,
thank you.
There
you go.
Meters as well.
JJ from Mushin, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Amal Yinka says, see, people have no problems with Buhari. It's his media team that keep causing the wahala. London is directly above Nigeria map-wise. America is adjacent to us. The routes are not the same. Why not land in France?
People are giving different options. Now, Daily Times has this one: restructuring, only way to resolve national crisis. Cheta, you take this one. Elder statesmen from across 4 geopolitical zones of the southern and middle belt regions stormed the Senate. I like the use of the word, but they actually visited the Senate on Thursday and declared that the nation is on the verge of precipice, and are requiring reminding the Senate and the House of National Assembly actually that they should really look into the state of the nation as it's in a state of emergency.
That's a fact. There's an emergency in the country, and a lot of it is basically a fallout of the way Nigeria is centrally administered. There was a survey that was done in March 2017 that I was privy to, and the survey asked the same question. If you were offered the same salary, whether you worked hard for 365 days a year or you relaxed at home for 365 days a year, what would you do? And 61 respondents to that survey, 61% of the respondents said that we'll relax at home, get paid, and spend the money. What people need to understand is that was actually an economic question. What do people do when they're giving consumption subsidies? Economic behavior will always follow incentives, and Nigerian states, which is where the problem is, are simply following normal economic behavior. They have an incentive to just spend and do nothing. So you'll see that our states, so recent data indicates that 17 out of our 36 states generate less than 10% of their federal allocations as IGR. Lagos has an IGR that is equal to 30 of our states put together, and the only states that are solvent in practical terms are Lagos, Ogun, Rivers, Edo, Kwara, Enugu, and Kano. That's a problem. And as long as we have this, where everybody, because of economics, is looking to Abuja
for money,
we will keep having these issues where Abuja cannot possibly take care of 36 children.
Then let's go back to 24 states instead of this 36 states insanity that we have.
It's about the exclusive list.
So back to the restructuring again. All right, finally, in closing, Premium Times has this story. Nigerian Parliament rejects paternity leave. They're asking for a member who sponsored this was Edward Kwajok of Plateau APC. He put this forward in the House and said they should give grant husbands 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, really.
Can I just stop you there? This is the single most important story today, actually. So I know for a fact Cheta's going to be one of those fathers that's going to think, you heard him, you did crazy. But we can't take this for granted. I think it is so important. Women get maternity leave. Fathers should get paternity leaves. Now, don't even put your hand up yet. Now, Lagos, I hope you're not driving. What really makes me laugh is, of course, most of it was voted against. But even we know that our house is predominated by men, number 2. Number 3 is, one of the things that they said is, according to the lawmakers, the men should be out trying to provide for the upkeep of the father rather than staying back home. They also wondered how many times a man with 6 or 7 wives, the bill became law.
It's clear from that statement that they're not representative of the people.
Thank
How
you.
many people have 6 or 7 wives?
Thank you. And it's also clear that these people don't understand what equality means. They really don't, and they don't care about it.
Well, this is why they didn't pass the bill.
This is why you know, men like Cheta do need to take 2-3 weeks off. It's important for men to be there with their children in those first few weeks.
So our cultural economic system is not ready. It's not right.
That's what they claim, but that's nonsense.
That's what they said.
Yeah, they said men should be out working.
Thank you.
Cheta, any comments?
Yeah,
use you as example.
Would
So
you?
this is your
Yeah,
time
would
to
you?
speak up.
Would you like 2 weeks
Being
maternity?
present with the
paternity?
wife during giving birth is traumatizing enough. You need time.
No, Cheta, you didn't say that.
He did say
This is
that.
just abdicating responsibility,
Oh my
and he doesn't
goodness.
mean it. He just likes being difficult. Thank you very
I
much.
think you should ask our listeners to actually text in. How many of you men out there would want paternity leave?
It's
Or
a
is
different
it, or is
price,
the fear that, you hear these things nowadays where, husband and wife, they go on family holidays very quickly, and in the hotel, 3 doors down, down the road, the girlfriend is in the other hotel.
On that note, we are done with Freshly Pressed for this morning. Thank you very, very much. All right. Lagos, do stay with us, though, because even though Freshly Pressed is coming to an end, Sweet Breakfast continues. And at 8:15, it will be time for us to switch lanes and talk about sports inside the locker room. Keep listening. Follow our analysts up online. You can find Tunde Okufi as at Big Kufs. You can find Miss Ireti Bakare-Yusuf as Sisioge Lagos. It was her birthday yesterday. And you can find Cheta Nwaeze up online as Chickster.
The headlines.
No, I can't explain. I died. When I read that part,
We have dinosaurs.
I'm even thinking I had that here fucking balls.
Oh, no,
I'm
Serious stuff.
Maybe it's because we went from pension to pension.
No,
not
don't
even
be
that.
pissed off.
I knew what I was starting with, but then something that was said in the just
During the discussion.
Here we come.
Oh, don't be pissed off. No, let's just laugh. They said, how many times with the man with...
I mean, but they shouldn't be foolish. They're being deliberately obtuse.
The way their brain
They're being
works.
deliberately obtuse.
Their brain is so
Deliberately
basic.
no, but you know the thing to ask is, are they being obtuse or that's just
they're
the
just
lens
They're
they
being
have?
obtuse.
That's the lens they have.
Yeah.
Which is why I say they're not representative.
It is very sad.
I can imagine the
their
reaction
mind is
in
so
the seated in the
simplistic
house. They
and
probably all
basic.
started the bust out in laughter and said,
Yeah, you
want
want
to
to
this is looking for.
No, the fear is most men are afraid to spend 2
Actual
weeks
time
alone
with
their
their
children.
Actual time with
Yeah,
their
that-
children.
That is the problem.
That is true.
That's
So
true.
many men would
See, Cheta,
No,
see,
but
Cheta,
I
see,
fully
Cheta.
understand.
the men
It
will
took
want the
Valentine.
men will want
But
the
this is the
men-
thing, but
Wait,
Cheta, the thing again
wait,
is
wait,
that
let me
paternity
land.
leave
It
is
took me a
optional. It is
while.
optional.
It took me a while to actually, when the Lola used to try to get me to spend time alone with the kids, it took me a while to actually, I used to be frightened.
But why? What were you scared of?
Because
No,
they're
because
Because I
small.
will break them.
Yes.
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 They're
Everybody's
like,
scared of small
they're
babies.
like, what do
Every
you
man
do
should be
with them?
hands-on.
Yeah, I agree
should
with you,
be,
darling.
and
That's
they
how I
will
know
get
that your
there.
bride price is going to be higher than everybody else's.
But the reality is, society has allowed men to escape that fear. The mothers are terrified as well.
Yeah.
The mothers are
They're
terrified as
shit
well.
scared.
And yet they have to do it.
And yet they have to do it.
Yeah.
Yes,
The mothers are
they're
Exactly.
afraid.
Mothers
So let's
are
all
more
be afraid
terrified.
together.
We're together.
Let's sit down.
Thank you.
But most importantly, your paternity leave is optional.
I
Same way as your paternity leave.
yeah,
You don't
I
have
was really
agree
hoping
with
we
the
would have enough
concept of-
time
I agree with
to
the concept
discuss
of
that
paternity.
story.
Folu, I think you are missing my point here.
Because
So again, I agree with the concept and all of that. I see perfectly where these guys are coming from.
And you're
They are
more
bashful
open
to
to
change.
changes than
Yeah.
they are,
She was-
because
this was
they
her
are
first
scared.
time and she
They are
was
scared
just
between,
freaking-
let me not make a mistake here.
Mothers freak out too.
If
It's
something
the
goes wrong, my
pressure.
husband will kill me.
And most
Yeah.
importantly, is the
Just,
pressure they put on you. The
That's
whole
it.
society, anything happens to
They
that
expect you
child,
to know.
anything happens,
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
you.
You know what
Everybody
I
has
do?
different versions
Well,
of childcare.
From-
I say to my
nowhere.
friends, leave him, go out,
Yeah.
watch,
Yes.
they will manage.
Yes.
They'll be fine.
He's his
Yes.
child now. He won't die. You come and find the house in a mess, so
fine, they'll
but
be
it's
very
okay. They'll be all right.
Bye,
They will
guys.
bond. They'll figure it out. Oh boy, now me and you. Yeah, you can imagine Cheta talking
But
to
you know, the other-
Ebuka at the beginning.
The other point,
Oh boy,
the
don't
other
embarrass
point-
me.
the
Your
other
mother
point
will
to
soon be
note,
back.
though, is that
Don't
you know,
embarrass me.
there's so many dates